Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Mili, co-chair of the Ontario Climate Emergency Campaign, or OCEC, and Ontario chair for the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment. We're speaking from the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee. As we approach the 2022 Ontario Municipal Election amidst a climate crisis, OCEC calls on all Ontarians to recognize this massive opportunity to drive public climate action by voting for pro-environmental candidates on October 24th. Alors que nous approchons des élections municipales de l'Ontario, au milieu d'une crise climatique en cours, OCEC appelle tous les Ontariens voter pour des candidats pro-environnementaux pour stimuler l'action climatique. The climate crisis is not for today or another day. It's here now, impacting our daily lives. With municipalities influencing fully 50% of all greenhouse gas emissions in Canada, and the need to cut emissions in half by 2030, the upcoming election is crucial. Yet the June 2022 election saw the lowest voter turnout in Ontario history, producing a provincial government that represents only 18% of eligible voters. A government that now threatens our future by pushing Ontario in the wrong direction and blatantly ignoring critical environmental solutions. The municipal election is our chance to turn the tide, to elect strong local leaders who will stand up to provincial forces and lobbyists pushing in the wrong direction, who will implement real solutions that address not only the climate crisis, but also the affordability crisis, the housing crisis, the health crisis, while saving massive tax dollars. OCEC is a nonpartisan coalition of nearly 250 multi-sector groups representing about 850,000 Ontarians. We are identifying pro-environmental candidates who endorse a 4-point municipal climate action plan. The plan sets globally recognized emissions targets by urgently getting municipalities off fossil fuels while protecting public health from environmental threats and promoting broad public awareness of the issues. Our 4 speakers, each representing an OCEC signatory group, will address each of the 4 points of the climate plan. We'll hear first from Mitra Yakubi, Chair of the Canadian Federation of Students, Ontario, followed by Jack Gibbons, Chair of the Ontario Clean Air Alliance. This will be followed by Dr. Claudette Holloway, RN, President of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. Our 4th speaker will be Phil Pothen, Ontario Environment Program Director with Environmental Defense. And finally, we'll hear closing remarks made by Lyn Adamson, co-chair of OCEC and co-chair of Climatefast. Thanks very much, and I'll turn it over to Mitra.
All right, thank you, Mili. And hi, everyone. My name is Mitra. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm the chairperson at the Canadian Federation of Students, Ontario. The Federation is the largest and oldest national student organization representing over 530,000 college and university students from across the country and over 350,000 members across the province. We are the united voice of post-secondary students advocating for our rights and ensuring student voices are prioritized. The Federation is also a proud member of the Ontario Climate Emergency Committee, the OECC. And we're here today because the climate crisis is one of the most urgent issues impacting our and future generations. We know that the climate crisis disproportionately affects youth, students, and racialized communities due to environmental racism that manifests as a lack of access to resources, funding for necessary public infrastructure, and the systems necessary to combat the climate crisis. The impact of the climate crisis that we are experiencing are a direct result of the previous generations in action, and we know that things are only going to get worse. We are in a critical climate window. Rising sea levels, forest fires, droughts, and biodiversity loss are only some of the threats that climate crisis will unleash in the years to come. Without significant climate action, these threats will multiply. resulting in further devastating and irreversible effects. Municipalities have the opportunity to lead through action. A better future is possible, but our municipalities must act now to create greener, sustainable, and more equitable cities. To achieve this goal, we need sustainable and equitable climate funding. To achieve this goal, we need and demand the development and implementation of a municipal action plan that's consistent with global efforts to limit planetary warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We demand affordable, accessible, and comprehensive public transit across municipalities. We demand affordable and accessible housing in the midst of a housing crisis, and food security for all as people struggle to put food on their tables. We demand provisions for extreme weather adaptation and resilience to protect our most vulnerable communities who are hit the hardest. We demand public oversight and accountability on these actions through a climate advisory committee. Transit, housing, food insecurity, weather adaptation are all climate justice issues, and this municipal election, we demand climate action on all fronts. Students have been at the forefront of climate justice efforts for decades, and we will continue to fight for a better future. On October 24th, we are demanding immediate climate action. On October 24th, we are demanding our future. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jack Gibbons from the Ontario Clean Air Alliance. Strong municipal leadership has been and will continue to be essential to protect our climate and lower our energy bills. Thanks to smart municipal leadership, Cornwall has a 100% renewable electricity system and the lowest electricity rates in Ontario. Thanks to the strong leadership of Mayor Hazel McCallion and 9 Ontario municipalities, a former Conservative Premier of Ontario, Ernie Eves, committed Ontario to the phase-out of our 5 dirty coal-fired power plants. Unfortunately, the current Conservative Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, wants to pull us backwards by building new gas-fired power plants in our cities. In addition, he wants to ramp up the output, the greenhouse gas pollution of our existing gas plants by more than 600%. This is climate and economic lunacy, since we have cleaner and lower cost options to keep our lights on. We need to elect strong municipal leaders who will say no to new gas plants in their communities. We need to elect strong municipal leaders who will say yes to cleaner and lower cost options to keep our lights on, like solar energy, like home energy retrofits, and cold climate air source heat pumps. We need to elect strong municipal leaders who will say yes to no down payment, no interest loans for local residents who want to move their homes to net zero by investing in solar panels, by investing in home energy retrofits, and by investing in heat pumps. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Claudette Holloway, and I am the president of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. The World Health Organization has said climate change is the single biggest health threat facing humanity. As we face this threat to public health, mental health, and our healthcare system, I know that the work in your towns and cities is critical. When you vote in the municipal election on Monday, know that your representatives will be making decisions on land use that will determine the fate of green spaces, agriculture and food security, decisions on housing, transportation, and more. These will significantly impact the extent of the climate crisis and therefore your health and that of your family, friends, and other loved ones in the coming decades. To combat the climate crisis, municipalities must get off fossil fuels with a rapid transition to renewable energy. We need affordable, equitable housing with accessible and reliable zero emissions, public transit, and active transport such as biking and walking infrastructures. Cities need to be prepared for extreme weather such as heat, wind and flooding, and provide safe shelter, particularly for those most marginalized. Incredibly, solutions to the climate crisis, such as well-designed cities free of fossil fuels, promote active transport and public transport, and also cuts pollution, which currently prematurely kills 6,600 Ontarians every year. These combined solutions combat lung disease, cancer, obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, while improving mental health and social connections. In the process, they will also save massive healthcare dollars and avoid further strain on the healthcare system in Ontario, which we as nurses know to be critically overburdened and overstretched. Tackling climate change is recognized as the greatest health opportunity of the 21st century. The municipal representatives you elect will have the power to either implement or ignore the urgent climate action that is critical to seize this opportunity to safeguard our health and our healthcare delivery to achieve the thriving future we all deserve. On Monday, October 24th, vote for people who will commit to bold action for the climate and your family's health, both now and for many generations to come. Thank you.
Morning. I'm Phil Pothen. I'm Ontario Environment Program Manager with Environmental Defence. For decades now, municipal politicians in Ottawa, in Mississauga, in Toronto, and across Ontario have paid lip service to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and protecting habitat and farmland, while refusing to overturn the status quo suburban land use patterns, housing mix, and transportation mix that lie at the heart and root of those emissions. They've done this by pretending that we can somehow finesse or subtly slide our way to lower carbon emissions. And because of this lie, when it comes time to bite the bullet and commit to the dramatic, noticeable changes that we actually need, those changes get dismissed as extreme and unnecessary. The candidates who've endorsed the Climate Emergency Campaign Municipal Candidates Climate Pledge have committed to stop telling their residents these comforting lies about our climate emergency. They've committed to institute a broad public education campaign to inform the public not just about the reality of climate change caused by our greenhouse gas emissions and biodiversity loss caused by sprawl, and about the tiny carbon budget that we have left to burn through before it's too late, but also about the fact that solving these problems requires very rapid, very noticeable, but very achievable and straightforward changes in the way that we live and travel every day. And they have to inform people about the fact that these very same emergency changes, these climate emergency adaptations, are also the very solutions to our housing shortage and to the looming fiscal crisis in our towns and cities. There's absolutely no way around it. In order to prevent runaway climate change, Ontario cities are going to have to shift the vast majority of private car trips onto public transit, bikes, and walking. In order to achieve that and to prevent the loss of species at risk, we're going to have to completely stop expanding our settlement area boundaries outwards very quickly, right now, and use all of our new homes and workplaces to densify and diversify our existing single detached suburbs into walkable, dense, transit-supporting complete communities. Replacing gasoline cars with ZEVs won't be enough, that's zero-emissions vehicles, and neither will cherry-picking slivers of land to leave intact as we continue to bulldoze and pave the farmland around them. Delivering the big, beautiful retrofit, and I guess the other piece we have to tell the truth about is that these solutions will actually make things better for Ontarians. But delivering the big, beautiful retrofit that all of Ontario's neighborhoods need will require political will, and it's part of the pledge that all of these candidates have made is to deliver these changes. That's the crux of that substantive pledge. But it's also going to be required that governments educate citizens about the fact that this change is necessary and desirable, rather than using citizens' lack of understanding of these issues as an excuse not to act. We need that education program, and we need it starting day one after the next municipal election.
Lyn Adamson, co-chair of Climatefast, one of more than 200 member organizations of the OCEC and co-chair of OCEC. And I've been working on this campaign of inviting candidates to sign up for our pledge, and we've been very heartened by the strong, positive response we've received to our call. We've received hundreds of responses from across the province, from big cities and small, from north, south, east, and west, from sitting mayors, and from aspiring young trustee candidates, all saying, yes, climate matters. Yes, I commit to taking climate action. Yes, a comprehensive plan is the way to bring about a quick reduction in emissions and meet our climate targets. Thanks to all our panelists for coming out today. Now let's all work together during these last 5 days of the campaign to elect climate champions. Thank you. And we can now take questions. You want to come up?
I'm from Canada, French CDC. If I'm a candidate and I pledge to this plan, what I'm pledging to, what's my obligations?
So you've heard one piece of it, which is they're pledging to slam the brakes on sprawl, densify existing communities so that they reach transit-supporting density, and there are places where people don't need a car for most of their trips. That's a piece of it. But, I mean, Jack has some of those other substantive pieces as well that he's talked about, and I'll pass that on to him.
We could have four main points on our pledge. Yes. Do you want to go through them?
Sure. We have 4 points. Point number 1 is that municipalities must set globally recognized emissions targets in line with standards to reduce emissions, to limit planetary warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We then, point number 2 is in regards to reducing fossil fuel consumption, transitioning off fossil fuels to achieve those targets. Point number 3 involves protecting public health in the course of doing this, because the climate crisis represents the single greatest crisis to human health of our time. And point number 4 involves informing and educating the public to raise awareness on the issues.
So those detailed policies that we described, they're part of number 2, which is that substantive path to getting to those lower carbon and greenhouse gas emissions.
The lowering emissions depends on reducing gas consumption in home heating, in transportation, and in all the ways that we use it in the province. And we need both the public involvement and we need the government involvement. And there's lots that municipal councils can do. For example, supporting active transportation, for example, heat pumps for homes. There's lots that can be done. So we just want to raise that awareness and have people vote on Monday. We don't want to see a low voter turnout Monday. We want people to come out and vote for the people who will lead us into the future, that will make the changes we need.
So I want to draw this connection to a concrete issue that's going to be debated in Ottawa. It's the central issue, seemingly, of the municipal election campaign in Ottawa, and that is whether it's necessary to rapidly roll out those next 20 years of bike lanes within the next term, and it is absolutely necessary. There isn't really a path to net zero in Ottawa that doesn't involve doing that. So you've got to vote for a candidate, if you care about the environment, who is going to do that rapid rollout of bike infrastructure so that we can shift trips, not just in the core, but in the suburbs to bikes, those local trips. There has got to be that rapid expansion of public transit in the city of Ottawa, and the free fares for kids under 17 is a huge piece of that. So you've got to choose a candidate who wants that, because unless there are those free fares for minors, you have a situation where as soon as parents find that their kids have to go to hockey practice or soccer or dance, they start feeling like they need a car, because these all involve trips. It's got to be practical to bring your kids where they need to go on the bus, or by bike for that matter.
And we also need a government at the local level that's going to fight back against the the province, which is expanding highways over the Greenbelt. And that can't be allowed to proceed. So Highway 413 has to have a federal environmental assessment. It has to be stopped. We have to have denser cities where we house more people in the urban envelope and not spreading out into the farmland, which we need for the food that we need to eat.
And that's why we're emphasizing for the public as well to be aware that municipalities, in fact, hold within the municipal level policy making the power to influence literally half of our national greenhouse gas emissions. So there is a lot of power inherent in municipal level government, and we really need the public to understand that and to vote accordingly in order to safeguard our futures as our window to act impactfully on climate dwindles down. And if we count this in election cycles, we're coming down to our last few cycles where we have this chance to really make that difference.
So every vote counts, and bringing it down to a personal level, climate change will contribute towards improving health and healthcare and the healthcare systems for all of us. And not only for us, but for the generations to come. So every vote is important. And as we've heard from the stats, that this is the biggest single emergency that we're facing, and also the biggest opportunity for us to make a difference. So it's important for all of us, every member of the public, every voter, to get out there and vote for climate change.
And you can find the candidates who have pledged, and we have at least 200 candidates across the province who have pledged to support this plan, and you can find them at our website, OntarioClimateEmergency.ca, on the endorsements page. And you'll also find resources with links to other environmental sort of reviews that have been done by other organizations that are part of the OCEC. So we want to get the word out there to the public. These are your candidates who have pledged to make a difference, and we do plan to follow up after the election and support them in doing so.
Have you personally reached out to candidates that have not signed a pledge, and if so, why?
Because we are a nonpartisan organization, we have reached out equally to all candidates, we've been focusing more on getting the word out to everybody rather than having the time and capacity to double back to persons who have not engaged.
But I can tell you that some have taken the time to write back and say that they support almost everything on the pledge, but there's something they can't. And so, for example, the free transit that we talked about, it's like, how are we going to pay for it? People are always going to raise these questions. So we need to put out the program we want and work for it. So even though people who didn't sign it agree with most of it and want to move it forward, I think we were really heartened by how much positive response we got, and we do plan to follow up and move forward, and we really need an engaged public to do so with us, because this is everybody's challenge. It's all our challenge for our children and grandchildren, and for communities around the world right now that are feeling the impacts of climate change.
And what if the candidate signs the pledge and doesn't follow through? They're elected and they don't put into action.
Well, then they've lied, and you can hold them accountable for that. They're on the hook. They're on the hook. People who've made this commitment, they're on the hook for doing that. And so you can take this commitment to them, this climate emergency commitment, and Environmental Defense has what's called a litmus test for candidates that we use in Ottawa, in Toronto, and in the Greater Golden Horseshoe. You take that to them if they've made that commitment and they haven't delivered, or they haven't done everything they can in terms of bringing motions at council, in terms of voting for zero boundary expansion at council, then you can hold them to account and say that this person lied and move on.
And our organization continues. We continue to grow, and we are continuing after the election. We'll be advocating for these and really engaging people at all levels to work with their politicians, because it's got to be a team effort. We all are on the same team. We want a livable future, and that is under threat right now. And we can elect a government at the local levels on Monday that will make a difference.
And it is important for politicians to represent all their constituents, for them to deliver the best health care for all of us, and to have a world where we can all breathe better air, have cleaner water, and attend to things such as the emergency that faces us with the climate.
And certainly, as you heard from Lyn, we'll be following through. We're a long-term organization, but also simply to recognize the value of having these conversations in the first place. Each time we speak about it, each time somebody is asked about it or approached about it, whether or not they engage, it still helps to build that awareness and to start changing our mindsets, as we need to do to achieve the really rapid societal transformations that need to happen.
It's a good point about, people may not follow through on their promises, but the education and awareness about the environment doesn't end here. It continues. So I'm sure with all the organizations here, there's more than enough information and awareness raising that will go to continue the message, because this is something that it's just not a one shot. It will continue regardless of what they vote, but we are hoping that all the public will understand the importance of how this affects all of us.
And I think another overarching message that we have is that whether your prime concern as a person is, your access to housing, or will my job be secure, is my health secure, all of these are underpinned by climate. Unless we have a stable, livable environment, we cannot achieve any of the other priorities in society, whether it is, the economy, health, equity. All of these rely on having a stable environment in which to live and enact our daily lives.
For only a few days from the election, what's your assessment of the place that the environment took in the campaigns across Ontario?
Certainly in terms of land use issues, there's been a real quantum leap forward in terms of the debate. So, for example, in the City of Toronto, there was no major mayoral candidate who was openly refusing, to densify existing neighborhoods. That's now a fringe position. Everyone agrees that we need to get rid of exclusionary zoning and turn those neighborhoods into complete communities. Now, on issues like the type of transit we need in order to get there, and on the actual commitment to lower car trips, there are differences between the candidates, but there is a huge leap forward, certainly. Similarly, in Hamilton, a candidate who might ordinarily have said outright that they wanted to sprawl has had to hide that and back away from that position. And whether you believe them or not, they're no longer publicly talking about sprawl. You have one candidate who's taking a clear position, and the ordinarily pro-small candidate has had to at least keep silent on that issue. So we see those positions moving. In Ottawa, we have at least some of the candidates advocating really big transformative changes to bike lanes. Several candidates, in fact, doing that. And so this is a clarity and unity of messages on those land use issues. We have less sort of inconsistent statements where people say, I don't want sprawl, but I also don't want densification. We've got a consistent message that we want densification and we don't want sprawl, and that's a massive leap forward.
And if I could add to that, we also need a real commitment to decarbonize the grid. We got off the coal plants, as Jack was speaking about, but the current government is firing up gas plants and also nuclear power to fuel the grid rather than going with renewables, conservation, and those programs that are going to be better for our communities. So we need people to be aware as we electrify transportation and home heating, which we need to do to bring down our emissions. We've got to make sure it's coming from non-fossil fuel sources and from sources that will be safe and renewable into the future.
And it has to be pointed out that those same solutions also happen to be the least expensive solutions. So that the wonderful thing, the positive thing here is that single solutions can address the economy, the health, and the climate crisis all at one time. We need wise, informed decision-making at governmental levels to make this happen. But these decisions will actually pave a financially secure future for the province as well.
It's great that you're here and asking these questions.
It certainly
Absolutely
is.
great. So spread the word and encourage others. This is something that can be done, and it must be done.
Yes. And it will help public health, as Claudette spoke of, and Mili, that's going to make the health better for children and for all of us. Thank you so much. If you don't see any other questions, then we will wrap up our press conference with thanks to Queen's Park, thanks to the MPP Peter Tabbins for booking the room for us today, and thank you all for coming, taking interest, and being part of making a difference.